Selling is not telling. Hello everyone, I'm Ron Cronin with the Mike Ferry Organization. Selling is asking questions. Write that down. Selling is asking questions. Then below that, I want you to write down, telling is repelling. I mean, let's be honest, when someone's telling you about their vacation or telling you about their experience, it's usually something that you're not interested in. You're just kind of following along, nodding and smiling. Telling is repelling, especially in the sales process. True salesmen know that asking questions is the way to go when working to sell someone on your product or your service. Okay. You see, what I find as a coach for the Mike Ferry Organization is that agents are always looking outwardly for more ways to do business. Always looking for the new thing, always looking for what are they doing, what are others doing, how can I build, what can I do to add, always looking outwardly. But maybe the answer is to look inward when you're looking for more business. Maybe it's to look inward. Okay, let me explain. You see, to find listings right now, it requires a lot of hard work and you're talking to a lot of people. So what if you could increase production and your income by simply not talking so much? Have I got your attention? Okay, well this session is going to be about selling is not telling. It's going to be about asking questions and what are the different situations that you can start asking questions instead of whatever you're currently doing now. This session is going to teach you how to bring more people to your side, how to make you more attractive, more interesting to the customer, and you'll be the person that more customers want to work with. Okay, so what if you could do it by simply not talking so much? Now, I know I have a lot of your attention. Write down number two. Number two, you're talking right now, you're talking to people that you could be working with. You are. You're talking to a lot of people that you could be working with. So what if you could convert more by simply becoming better at asking questions versus explaining, describing, basically telling customers what they should do? What if we could increase our production by asking questions instead? You see, here's something to ask. Have you been repelling people away? Right? Are you a teller? Now, some of you know that you are, or know that you have that habit, and it's just a habit, okay? But the question is, do you really think that what you're telling people is interesting to them? Do you really think that? I know that we want to believe that, but the truth is it isn't. The truth is most people are really only concerned about what they have going on, what their beliefs are, their opinions, their decisions, their feelings, their plans, their goals, their concerns. And they're not really interested in others. I mean, have you ever had anyone tell you about the vacation they just got back from? Was it really exciting for you? Right? Maybe not. So follow along. You're talking to people right now that you could be working with, but there's a good chance that you're pushing people away because your style is to tell, explain, describe, and show them what they should do. Well, as a consumer, I find all of those things repelling. As a consumer, even though you're a qualified salesperson, it's not really important to me what you think, what you bought, what you believe, what you've done. That's not really important to me. In fact, it's not important to me at all as a consumer. Okay? So let's write down number three. Number three. Write down, selling is really simple when you boil it down. Selling is really simple when you boil it down. It's about communication. Sales is about communication. Selling is about communication. Okay? Basically, write down, learning to understand the needs of the customer thoroughly. Learning to understand the needs of the customer. How am I going to learn and understand the needs of the customer? Well, if they're not just coming out and telling me, which they usually don't, I'm probably going to have to ask questions. Okay? So learning to understand the needs of the customer thoroughly and then conveying the value that you and your service bring to the customer. Okay, so understanding the need and then conveying the value. That's what your job is as a salesperson. Understanding the need, asking questions, and it says thoroughly, right? So for instance, are you a skimmer? When it comes to learning about motivation, do you ask all the questions? Do you ask a couple, some? Where do you fall in there, right? Are you skimming the surface with it? Or are you getting all of the details? It's critical to the outcome of this process, okay? But learning to understand the needs of the customer. So that's what sales is. So if you're learning to understand, you're simply going to be only asking them questions and not talking about yourself or your company or your experience or any of those things. All right? It should be real simple. Write down the fourth thought on this. Selling is not telling. Write this down. You're going to love this. Remember that value is subjective. Value is subjective. So what you think is valuable may not be valuable to them, right? What you believe is valuable, that may not be valuable to them. So in order to understand what someone else values, you must first ask them the right questions. So an example would be, write down who, what, when, where, why, how, right? Those would be some great open-ended questions, start an open-ended question that you can ask that would help the person, explain what they're doing and what their reasons for moving are and what their goals are and who's involved, right? I wrote down, learn everything there is to learn about their motivation. Learn everything there is to learn about their motivation. Okay? It's about what their wants are, what their needs are, what their concerns may be. Everything there is to know. The more you know about their reasons for moving, the easier it is to get them to move to the next step and the next step and the next step. Okay? So an example of what I mean by this is, for instance, a common reason someone will sell their house is they want to move closer to family. Okay, great. Well, a lot of us, we just take that reason and then we try to get the home sold and move forward with just that reason. They want to move closer to family. Do you know where that is? Do you know who the family is? Do you know how old the kids are? Do you know what they've missed so far in their lives? I mean, why are they wanting to be closer to family? It's the reasons that they want to be closer. That's the motivation. Say, selling the house is not the motivation. Selling the house is the process required to obtain the goal of the motivation. So you got to remember, do you actually have your current customer's true motivation? When someone says they're downsizing, that's not their motivation to downsize. What is it? Is it to alleviate the payment and have a lower, more affordable payment? Is it they need more, they need a smaller space, they need a single story, they can't take care of the upstairs, they want to be happy again, they want to be healthy again? I mean, what is the reason that they want to downsize? That is the motivation. And remember, there are layers of motivation that people are not going to tell you unless you specifically ask. They're just not going to go there unless you ask. Okay? Now remember, again, the more you know, then the easier it is to get the customer to move to the next step. Okay? Sometimes it's downsizing, sometimes it's a bigger place. Dive in deep, ask a lot of questions to find out what is valuable to them. What are their wants, their needs, their concerns, their expectations? The next thought I wrote down on that selling is not telling, the next thought I wrote down is the word engagement. Engagement. Do you feel it's important to engage with the customer? It is, right? Engagement happens when you get people to tell you what's important to them. When you get people to tell you what's important to them, that's engagement. when they tell you what they need, when they tell you what they want, when they tell you what their obstacles are. That's engagement. That's someone you're probably going to be working with. See, Mike taught me a long time ago to get the customer to open up and express themselves to you and tell you what's going on, tell you all the details. He explained that, he said, you'd be the only one that they told because you're probably the only one that asked or seemed interested or concerned or added that into the equation. You see, when you know the true motivation, everything you ask them to do is in regards to achieving that motivation, achieving that goal. Everything, the list at this price so that you could be with your granddaughter before Thanksgiving. Reduce your price so you could be with her before Thanksgiving. Accept the offer so that you could be with her before Thanksgiving is planned. Everything you ask them to do is in relationship to their true motivation, not just getting the home sold. I hope you're following along. Okay? Engaging your customers is not telling them about you, telling them about your company, or telling them about all the business that you're currently doing. That's not engagement. Now, some of you are blushing right now because you know you're guilty of this, and that's okay. We're going to make a change starting at the end of this video. We're going to make a change to turning the spotlight on the customer, keeping the camera on the customer and interviewing them and finding out what they want, what they need, when they like it, who's involved, what are their concerns, what are their challenges, what's their experience. Not talking about you and your company and whatever you're currently doing. Okay? And good. So that's a super important point. My question for you in regards to this is, how do you know what to recommend to somebody? Like you recommend appointments, meet with me, sign the contract, list at this price. How do you know what to recommend to someone if you don't know what they want, what they need, or what they can afford? How do you do it? What are you recommending? Okay? Okay, good. Here's a thought. Coaching clients that may be watching this. Coaching clients, here's a thought for you. Are you engaging with your coach each week on your call? Or are you telling them everything that you have going on? Right? Do you have questions for your coach each week? Or do you not have any questions at all and you spend your time telling them about your deal, about your lead, about your thing? Right? We got to look at this habit and we have to look at our communication, all of it. It's critical to your performance. Right? And instead of having to go out and find a new source or spend money to get people to call you or buy lists or any of that stuff, let's just work on your ability to be a great communicator and a great salesperson. Okay? Now, let's write down the next thought. Number 6 I wrote down, why do salespeople tell versus sell? Why do they do this? How does this happen? Okay? Well, remember, when you're telling someone, you're explaining or you're describing something or you're sharing your views or your opinions on something, when you're doing that, you get to be heard. You get to be right. You get to be the expert, right? There's lots of benefits in it. You get to be right, and that's important for a lot of us, okay, to be able, I know what I'm doing. You get to be acknowledged. Wow, Ron, you're really an important person in real estate, right? So it brings certain things that our egos sometimes need. People tell instead of sell because they've had no sales training, and no one's ever taught them how to do it, in an effective manner. So they just do what comes natural. They don't know what to ask, so they just explain whatever's in their head. All right? Another reason is they have no sales experience. Again, no one ever showed them how to do it properly. We tell instead of sell so that we can justify our commission, justify our existence, right? Sometimes we feel like we have to justify our existence even being involved in this transaction and making all this money that we're going to make. Okay. Why do we tell instead of sell? Well, we don't spend any time developing the skill of asking questions, right? And you just don't know what else to do. So all kinds of reasons that, you could be in this situation, but let's become better at this. Let's buckle down on this. I know a lot of you watching are frustrated that you want to be able to ask questions, but it's hard. Doesn't come natural, and it doesn't come fast enough. Well, it can come quickly, it can come naturally, it can be what you now currently do when you're in these sales conversations. Okay? So, but who are the worst offenders to this telling? I'll tell you, some of the worst offenders out there are going to be like the real veteran, experienced agents or the big producing agents. Sometimes they're the worst offenders. Yes, they do a lot of business. I believe wholeheartedly they could do a lot more, but why do they tell instead of sell? It's because they basically know too much. They know too much, and they've seen this before, and they've experienced it several times. They know exactly what to do, so they just tell the person, and then they either do or they don't. But as a professional salesperson, the whole object is can you remove yourself from the equation? Right? Can you remove your opinions? Can you remove your feelings? Can you remove your experiences from the equation and just let the buyer and the seller come together? Right? Remove yourself. All right, good. Well, you got to ask yourself, what am I committed to? You're not committed to being that teller, repelling person who's just like blah, 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 blah. You're not committed to that. You're committed to being like a good doctor, thoroughly diagnosing the situation, a good attorney, thoroughly diagnosing what your legal situation is so that they can best help you. Right? Don't you feel that from a doctor and attorney when the focus is on you and what your needs are versus the attorney telling you how awesome they are, how many cases they've won, what they think is going to happen, what they predict is going to happen in the future? Wouldn't you rather have them focus on you and what you want? I know you do. Okay. So an example was my wife, Michelle, and I, this was several years ago, but I can remember this instance. I'll never forget it actually. But at our house, we wanted to have some concrete borders installed around our lawn and to separate the flower beds and so forth. You've seen those just concrete like borders that they'll install, right? Well, so we heard about this garden show that was going on down at the convention center, and we go down to the garden show. And, I basically wanted to neaten up the yard, make it look clean, and, and have it be like where I didn't have to do a lot of maintenance or take care of it. Okay? That was my main goal. And I didn't like the way it looked currently. Bothered me. So we go down to the garden show, we approach one of the booths, we can see he's got some samples out there of these concrete borders, exactly what we're looking for. And this gentleman, as soon as we approached the thing, he launched into, with great detail, he launched into how this concrete, his are seamlessly shaped. He showed us all the different patterns, all the different colors. He went through countless photos of previous jobs that they've done. He went through the pricing options, the warranty options. I hadn't even said a word. He went through all of that. And I basically looked at my wife, Michelle. I said, I had no idea that it was going to be this difficult, right? I'm going to need a little time to think about it. And I said, sir, may I have your card? He says, yes, of course. Here's my card. Thanks for stopping by. And we walked away, right? We walked away. Well, even though that this person meant well, even though he meant well with us, he created price pressure. He created doubt in my mind. He created competition when none of that even existed. I would be happy just to, appreciate the first person I talked to, sign him up and get out of there, right? All he needed to do was get to my issue. I wanted a neater yard. We never talked about what I wanted, what I was looking for, where I wanted to put it. We never talked about those things. We talked about his products, what he'd done, this kind of thing. And if he had asked me a few questions, I'd probably have his concrete borders in my yard right now. But I don't. Okay? But I don't. How about that? No questions. Have you experienced that from a salesperson before? Is it possible that you're that salesperson to these customers? We got to change it, guys and gals. Repeat after me. Selling is not telling. Say it. Right. Selling is not telling. Selling is asking questions. Okay? So what would have been a better example for this salesperson to use with us when we walked up to his booth at the garden show, right? What if he would have said something in effect of, hey, thanks for stopping by the booth today. Are you considering concrete borders? I would have said, actually, I am. Well, what has you interested? I'd say, well, I want to neaten up my yard. And he'd say, well, tell me more about that. And I'd say, well, I've got these old railroad ties in there for borders, and they're ugly and an eyesore, and I don't like them anymore, right? Well, what if he said, well, is your yard appearance important to you? I'd say it's totally important, but what's even more important is I want it maintenance-free and that's going to last forever, right? See, so with just a few simple questions, you can learn a lot about your prospect's true buying motives, the true buying motives. Remember, buying concrete borders is not my motivation. Having a neater yard, maintenance-free, is my motivation. That's why I'm buying the concrete borders. Okay? So write this down. This is an important thought. Helping your prospect to describe their current situation and to paint a picture of the solution is much more effective than a long list of features and benefits that you offer. I'll say it again. Helping the prospect describe their current situation and paint the picture of the solution is much more effective than a long list of features and benefits that you offer. Okay, helping them make that determination. I wrote down that selling, I'm going to give you an example of selling, coaching for the Mike Ferry organization, which I've done for years in different aspects and spent several years, a long time ago, working in the office selling coaching, right? And so I want to give you this example. I call it was the no-close sale. A lady at a program came to the seminar I was teaching. I was at the back table eating a sandwich and having a Diet Coke on the lunch break. Everybody had left except there was a few people in the room. I'm just back there quietly having a sandwich and sipping my soda, and she walks to the back table while I have food in my mouth and chewing, and she walks up and she says, Ron, and I'm sitting down, right? So I looked at her and acknowledged her while I was chewing my food. And she says, Ron, I want you to know I won't be joining coaching this week. So while chewing my food, I, nodded like in agreement, okay. But I didn't say anything. I was drinking, food, and then I took a drink, and she now launched into a long, excerpt of whatever was going on in her business and her life. And she told me about this and told me about that and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and went on and on. I'm just nodding and sipping and eating and listening and nodding. And then she says at the end, so that's my story. And without saying one word, I swallowed, I took a sip, I grabbed a coaching contract, I put it in front of her and I handed her the pen. And then I sat back and took another bite and didn't say a word. And she looked at it, and she looked at me, and she looked at it, and then she said, you're right, where do I sign? Right? We didn't have to say one word with this gal. I just had to stay out of the way and allow her to do what she really wanted to do inside. She went on to make $300,000 in her first 12 months of coaching, just so you know. Right? So it's an interesting way. Now, when selling coaching years ago, we'll see people, or selling any products, a salesperson will go through a long list. I've seen Mike Ferry salespeople, unfortunately, try an approach of telling you all the benefits that are involved in coaching as a way to sell you on the program, and that's not the way to do it. But instead of doing the long list, how about if you just simply asked more questions? How about if you simply asked, would you like to make more money? Would you like to have maybe a little more free time? Would you like to improve the lifestyle of the family? Would you like to join coaching today? Which program is better for you, Premier or one-on-one? You see, so selling can be very simple. Keep your questions focused on what the customer wants, okay? Not your list of features and benefits. Okay? Now, number 9 is important. Remember this rule when meeting with potential customers. Remember this rule. The essence of selling is not telling, right? The essence of that is asking questions that will help your prospect self-discover their own need for your service. That's the essence. Asking questions, right, that will help your prospect self-discover their own need for your service. Think about that. That's what selling is. It makes things so much easier. Okay, so let's discuss those types of questions. Let's talk about a few. Okay, and you can watch this again if you have to. All right, we're going to help you self-discover your own need for the service. I could say to you, if you're a homeowner, I'm the selling agent or the real estate agent, listing agent. I might ask questions something like this. Do you want someone proactive and aggressive on your side? Right? Are you excited that I have systems in place to make this an easy process for the family? Would you like me to make sure that you get to your new home on time? Is it important that I get you the most amount of money the market will bear? Can you appreciate having a seasoned professional watch your back through the entire process? See, look how I can convey certain things. I could tell you all these things. Listen, I'm proactive and I'm aggressive. I've got systems in place to make this easy for you, right? I'll get you there on time. I'll get you the most amount of money and I'll watch your back the entire time, right? This is me making promises, telling you, which you're probably not listening. But if I engage you in questions, do you want someone proactive and aggressive on your side? Yes, right? Now we're engaged. And I'm asking you about things that you want. Simple, isn't it? I hope it's starting to be simple for you as we go through this. Okay? So as we write down point number 10, I jotted down, people do not buy features and benefits. They don't buy features and benefits. They buy solutions to their problems. Some of those features and benefits could be the solution. They buy solutions to the problems. Okay? If you want to stand out from your competition, stop overloading your prospects with information, with brochures, with websites, and with all this stuff. Stop overloading them. Start asking thought and emotion-provoking questions. Right? Questions that bring out the emotion, like, moving closer to family, is that it? No, they're moving closer to family because they've been away from their family for 5 years. They've missed their granddaughter's, upbringing the first 5 years. They missed most of the birthday parties. They missed all the Halloweens. They missed this, they missed that. They want to be a part of her life. They don't want to have the guilt anymore. They want to be there for this coming Thanksgiving. There's all kinds of things behind moving closer to the family. There's all kinds of things behind, I start a new job in New York. There's so much more behind that. How long have they been waiting for it? What did it take to get there? What's life in New York City going to be like for you coming from Las Vegas? I mean, there's so much more behind what they told you initially their motivation was. I started a new job in New York. So much more behind it, right? Okay, good. So and a reminder is that everything you're ever asking them to do is to get them those important goals that they've shared with you, to get them those details about their motivation. All right? Okay, good. So I wrote down 2 more thoughts for you on this. Selling is not telling. 2 more thoughts is I want to identify what are some common selling situations. When can you use questions instead of talking and telling? Okay, so common selling situations for real estate agents. When you're setting an appointment, that's one. When you're setting an appointment That's a selling situation. I have to sell them on the appointment, right? When you're pre-qualifying, this is where you want to shine, right? Pre-qualifying, you're selling them on, on answering the questions. You're selling them on hiring you when you get over there later. You're selling them on your company. You're selling them on everything during pre-qualifying. Okay, you want to shine during pre-qual. That's where you get all the important information and the true motivation. That's where you get it during pre-qual often. Okay, presenting is another selling situation that you should be asking questions instead of talking. Have you ever considered why they don't sign sometimes? Why don't they sign the contract after a great presentation? Why? Think about it. Think about the presentation itself. Was it focused on them? Or was it focused on what you think? Or what your opinion is? Or what was it focused on? Okay? We're going to try to change that. We're going to try to increase your appointment to listing ratio, right? Your listing presentation to listing signed ratio. We're trying to improve that right now. Write down showing property, presenting offers, price reductions. That's a mini presentation. You can't just go in and demand one. Tell them, we're not getting any showings. We need to reduce. What kind of sales presentation is that, right? What if you went in and asked a few questions instead so that reducing the price was their idea? Yes. Price reductions. How about when, like some of the managers and brokers, owners watching right now, how about when you're recruiting? That's a sales situation, right? Hey, why don't they come to work for you after sitting in your office for 45 to 60 minutes? Hearing about, why don't they come to work for you? Why do they end up going down the street? Are you asking questions about what this new agent's needs are, what they require, what their experience is, what their current level of knowledge is? Are you asking about that, or are you telling them about how awesome your company is, about how amazing your training is, about how amazing your people are? How are you selling, right? Are you selling or are you telling? Okay, good. All right, and then my last thought for you guys today on selling is not telling. My last thought is number 12. I want you to keep in mind when you're closing, or at any time, but especially when you're closing, your questions can control what the customer's thinking about. I love the sound of that. Your questions can control what the customer's thinking about at that moment. Okay? Like for instance, if I asked you right now, think about the last time you went camping. Right? Now some of you, half of you thought, why is he asking me about that? And the other half thought about your last camping trip, whether it be a long time ago or recently. And you had a picture in your mind. You saw the campsite and the fire and your tent and the fish and the eagle, whatever you saw and whatever you visioned. When I say, when was the last time you went camping? You went there mentally for a second. Okay? And so when you ask questions, you can control what's in their mind at the moment. To get people to take new action, to get people to move forward, to get people to say yes and step forward and want to sign or agree or accept the offer, those types of things. What do you want in their head right when you ask them to move forward? Do you want them to be thinking about their objection? Do you want them to be thinking about why they're not going to sign? Do you want them to be thinking about negative things? No. I want them thinking about what they want, what they need, what's important to them. I want them thinking about where they're going and what that is. So then I ask them to sign, or I ask them to take the next step, or I ask them to move forward or meet with me or whatever I'm asking them to do. Okay, so watch, here's an example. Maybe before I'm closing this gentleman, I might say, hey, Tom, let me ask you, what's life in Miami going to be like as soon as you get there? And maybe he's coming from Las Vegas and he's looking forward to the tropical weather and retirement in Miami or whatever it is for him. But when I ask him, what's life in Miami going to be like when you get there? Boom, he has a vision for himself. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's golfing, maybe it's the breeze, maybe it's the South Beach. I don't know, but whatever it is for him. So I ask him that. Now he's thinking about Miami and what life's going to be like. And I might throw in, hey, who are you going to play your first round of golf with? Boom. Tom, or not Tom, but he's Tom, but Larry and Dave and Steve, and he pictures the four of them teeing off, and that's in his mind. And then I say, Tom, all you got to do now is sign the contract. Right? So before I ask them to move forward, I want to put something that they want in their head, and I do that with the questions I ask. So listen to these other types of questions. Maybe you can use these or form new ones from these, but how long have you been pursuing the new job in New York? And he thinks, whoa, it's taken me 3 years of hard work to get here, right? Are you excited to live in the Big Apple? And he pictures himself in Times Square, and he's wearing a suit and walking to work, and whatever he pictures for himself. And then I ask him, well, then accept the offer. Well, then reduce your price. Well, then sign the contract. Well, then let's meet for 15 minutes. See, you can control what your customer thinks about. Okay? How about some other questions? Who in your family will be there when you arrive in Denver? Right? Are you interested in creating multiple offers? Will you want to take advantage of the low mortgage rates when you buy? Boom, he thinks about, I get a great low mortgage, and then I say, great, all you have to do is sign here and list the house. Okay, I put things in their mind that they want. How will you decorate the baby's room in the new house? And she pictures, I'm going to have this and the crib and the thing and the diaper changing and all, I'm going to put it over. She can vision this beautiful baby's room. Well, fabulous. The next step is to accept the offer. The next step is to the 5% reduction. Okay? The last thing I wrote down is it important that you close the sale in a timely manner? And then they have to tell me yes, and they think about closing on time and what that means. They think about momentarily, what if I'm late and what that means? So guys and gals, telling is not selling, right? Asking is selling. Learning is selling. You're not learning when you're talking and explaining stuff. You're not learning, okay? Learning is selling, and listening is selling. Watch this video a couple of times if you can. Let's get the teller out of you. You are now a professional question asker. Good luck, have some fun, and we'll talk to you soon.